There is a population of people who something happened in their life, whether it's recent or past, and they're recognizing how it's impacting them in a negative way. So they look to go to therapy to help kind of solve. Then there's another group of people where that may be why they started, but now they're like, hey, I kind of like this. This particular issue's been resolved, but I kind of want to keep going. And then why would they do that?
Therapy works best when you stop trying to control the direction and let yourself be guided. What can you tell that person who believes that I don't have that big of a problem to go to therapy?
It doesn't always have to be about fixing something, but I kind of like to see it. Can you put yourself in a position where you allow someone to speak into your life, offer you a different perspective, give you a new skill, help challenge you, help hold you accountable?
So like as a therapist, how does insurance look like for you guys? Because I know insurance doesn't have the best reputation at all, but a lot of people go to therapy, they've been told you need to go to therapy, but then they don't have the resources to go to therapy. What does that look like for you guys as a therapist when you take in someone and boom, they can't afford it anymore?
Sometimes it could be the relationship has to end because insurance is their only path and they can't afford anything else. The client relationship, the therapist goes without, or the back pay that they owe.
So today's episode is going to be a guide for someone who went to therapy because of one thing and they're in therapy and now they are trying to figure out how to do therapy, whatever the right way is, which Crystal will get into it here. And then finally, we want to also do a guide on insurance. So, but before that, I want to say this will be Crystal's last episode, but she will definitely be back when she finishes that book so that we can do a deep dive on that.
Yeah.
But Crystal, again, I just want to say thank you so much for, I think we've done like 18, almost 20 episodes at this point.
Oh my gosh, yeah, so good.
Yeah, it's been fun just going under my hat and trying to figure
Yes.
out
Thanks
what's
for always
going
being
in there.
willing to go into your own stuff.
I know, yeah, it's so interesting. I actually have like one listener and she always just will like text me and just give me an overview. I'm just like, oh my God, that was a lot. You know so much now. So again, thank you so much for all of the wisdom that you've shared on this podcast. It's been fun over the years.
Yes.
I just had a conversation yesterday with a guy, surprisingly on Zoom call. It was something totally different.
Yeah.
But for some reason, he was just curious about my story because he watched my video.
Yeah.
And then the whole time he kept asking me, did I go to therapy because of one thing? I was like, yes, that's why I went to therapy. And then he was just trying to wrap his head around, like, because he feels like he doesn't have any issue to go to therapy. But I think someone is telling him in his life that he needs a therapy, but he can't see that.
Sure.
And I know there's a huge number of people that go to therapy because of something happened. And they go to therapy and it becomes a completely different experience. I want to talk about this. Like, why do people look for that one thing, which I was that person? But as a therapist, how can you talk about both sides, the people that go because they have the one issue, or the group that goes because they just want to understand who they are and go back into their past and try to see why they act a certain way, behave a certain way?
Yeah. Yes, that's a great question. And I love that conversation because I think there is a population of people who something happened in their life, whether it's recent or past, and they're recognizing how it's impacting them in a negative way. So they look to go to therapy to help kind of solve that, whatever caused them to go there. Then there's another group of people where that may be why they started, but now they're like, hey, I kind of like this. This particular issue's been resolved, but I kind of want to keep going. And then why would they do that?
Right.
So I believe that our culture is beginning to shift because you hear more people from the platform talking about how they have their own therapist. And so it's not always, or doesn't always have to be about fixing something or solving something, but I kind of like to see it. Can you put yourself in a position where you allow someone to speak into your life, offer you a different perspective, give you a new skill, help challenge you, help hold you accountable? And it doesn't have to be weekly, right? I have so many clients who will just go as needed. And then if they're like, oh, hey, I haven't seen Crystal in a while, I'm going to pop in, have an appointment with her, kind of share some of my wins and know that she's for me and will celebrate my successes. But then also she's willing to say like, oh, have you thought about this? And I'm always thinking about staying on this kind of growth path, and I'm allowing someone to kind of go on it with me, if you will. And so I love that just overarching view of therapy of like, it doesn't have to be because you're like at the bottom.
Right.
It can be, but just think about it as someone who you get to go in and you get to have a full hour of someone who gives you their undivided attention, and they're pushing you in a direction of leading you to your best self. And I just think that's such a beautiful image.
No, yeah, I think the mindset, like the mindset shift itself when you go to therapy, at least for me, when I went, and it was like one thing that I wanted to deal with, get my ex back. So I apologize to my wife. She would be like, "What the hell?" but then I went into it, and then what I learned was that I was in a relationship with someone not because I actually love her. I love the idea of being with her, because she was the first person who accepted all of my insecurities and actually saw them and was like, "I like you, and I want to stay with you, and I love you." And I'm just like, "What the heck? Go away." But they kept showing up more. And to me, going to therapy helped me understand that even though I say I love this person, that love was becoming very toxic. It was becoming, in a way that it was all about me, because she came to my life. She said she loved me, and she said she wanted to be in it. And I'm here in my Lord Toxicifors bubble, and she wanted to bust into the bubble and be in it. I'm just like, okay, well, now it's all about myself. So everything that happened in any situation, I felt like she was slowly dying to herself, like emotionally. And then I think eventually she just got like, this is too much, like it just became a huge problem. But what do you see when someone comes to therapy? For example, they have that one issue that they want to deal with. How often do they normally stay and do deep work? Yeah. And I guess on average, how often do they be like, all right, this is BS, I'm out?
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on the person. Some people come in and they're like, I just need to fix this, and then I want out, right? Like they don't want to be in therapy because it, makes them feel a certain type of way. And so it's, they might start out seeing us once per week, and then maybe over a couple of months it moves to every other week, and then eventually they just fade out, which is great. Obviously you don't have to have someone who you check in with, right? Like if you see it as like, I need to fix this and I want out, I mean, that's great. We'll work with you. But then there are a different group of people who come in initially where I want to work on this, I want to fix this, but then they really enjoy it. And they're like, I don't have this anymore, but I also want to keep this relationship kind of, in my life. Yeah,
no, absolutely. So like, how can someone reframe therapy better? Let's say someone has that one issue they want to work with, and they're very like adamant on like, this is what I want to work with. Let's say they're listening to this episode, and what would you tell them to reframe their mind as they go into therapy? Yeah,
solve that problem and just see what would it add to your life if you allowed this relationship to continue on an as-needed basis? Right. Because think about, again, life will always throw you curveballs, and knowing that you have someone who potentially is available to you, like how amazing would it be if like, oh, wow, life's thrown me something again. I'm just going to pop in here and kind of get a new perspective, or to kind of dial in on this new issue that's came up.
Right. And then another side of this, especially my wife, she said this a lot. She would say that I don't have enough big of a problem to go to therapy. And I'm just like, you don't say, I'm playing. I'm going to go into that era. Well, let's say someone who feels like they don't have that big enough problem, that one thing that's just corroding their life. But they tend to have just some little outbursts here and there. Yeah, it's not as bad, but it's you're like, okay, but like, what can you tell that person who believes that I don't have that big of a problem to go to therapy?
Yeah. I would say, awesome. Like, I love that for you.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, I would. Okay. I'd be like, that's awesome. But also, wouldn't it be great? And imagine is like, okay, so if you played a sport and you were amazing at that sport, and then you had someone who's like, I want to coach you one-on-one to kind of tweak little things that I noticed that will just make you better. Would you not want to go to that coach and be like, yeah, tweak those things in me so that I constantly get better? Right. Imagine therapy is that. I'm not going to fix, I'm going to tweak these little things to just enhance my life, enhance my relationships, and maybe even enhance my level of success. Right. And so then it's always this person who is helping to just give these slight adjustments to make things better. I use this sports example. I'm saying maybe we should start using LeBron James to advertise therapy, because LeBron is like in his 40s, up there, but for some reason he like
he's still on his A game. Like whenever he plays with the young guys, you see him dunking on them. He's shouldering them, going one on one with them, but then you find out that he's spending almost $2 million a year just on his body alone. Like he's working out on the water. Yeah. Like he's always tweaking.
Yes.
Simply because he's the best doesn't mean that he's letting himself go.
Exactly.
And again, that same concept could play with those both scenarios where you're like, I don't have a big enough a problem, so I'm just going to chill.
Yes.
The more you chill, the more your mind is actually getting impacted, especially today with all the stress going on.
Absolutely.
With everything going on in our society that's coming to us as human beings. I think going to therapy would help with balancing that, because people get so absorbed with all of the noise. This happening, this happened, that happened. And you're like, oh my God, how do I go about my day and just do anything and not think of all the visuals that I see? So again, in my own perspective, as someone who was a one issue person who went to therapy and then it became a whole different thing for me, what I would say to someone would be like, there's so much happening today. It's overwhelming to be a human. Especially in America. I don't know anywhere else because I'm in America right now. But it's like, the amount of content we see online, the amount of stuff that's coming at us, I 100% recommend for people to just go talk to someone. Just have that feedback, because if you don't, then the algorithm will shape your reality. It would feed you content. Like earlier I made a joke about, I just started Googling emotional dysregulation. And then from nowhere now, that's all I see. It's like, now the algorithm is telling me I am emotionally dysregulated. I was like, maybe I am. Because again, it's shaping my reality because of my interests.
Sure.
And I think if we can find a therapist or someone to get out of that bubble and be like, hey, am I emotionally dysregulated? Like, calm down. Let's go into it. Let's figure this out together.
And it's funny because we're so like, our society is like, again, therapy is this one-sided, you just go when you need something to be fixed. So we've rebranded what I've described as like performance coaching or leadership coaching, which again, that's great, but also that can also be therapy. And so it's, if you have a great relationship with your therapist and you quote unquote worked through everything, can you not see it as like a performance coach or a leadership coach? Because again, it doesn't have to be just once I've checked this box, I'm out. Healed from therapy.
Right. No, yeah, I actually hear that a lot of people would say that I'm healed. And usually when they say it, it's like they say it from this level, I'm healed, and everyone else is just toxic. It's so weird, just the way society approaches. I feel like the stigma around mental health, it makes it very difficult for people to see it as like a performance coach. Yeah. As like, this is an individual that you go to, you have a conversation with. They try to help you, like you said, tweak things that are happening to you in your life and at any given time, and help you understand it, help you balance it, help you figure out how to not identify with that issue. It's been such a huge left in my life personally. I've went from a guy with a huge stutter and to today, like, I barely stutter. I mean, it'll come every now and then when my dad is around. Yeah. But then whenever he leaves, I'm back again. I'm like, all right, we can talk. So that's a clip, that's a text that I grabbed from our previous interview, which I will link here. We went deeper into just going to therapy in general. Something that either you said or I said, I don't remember, but I think you said it because you sound very smart. It says therapy works best when you stop trying to control the direction and let yourself be guided. I like that. Yeah. Is there anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. When you think about if I'm coming to fix something, right, it feels like I just need this person to come in and like, whether it's equip me or whatever. Right. But if you allow yourself to be guided, then you let go and, stop trying to control the outcome. And I think beautiful things can come, again, assuming that you're paired with a great therapist. Oh yes.
That also it's a big factor too. Yeah. One thing that I want to talk about is like listening. I remember when I went to therapy, the reason why I stuck around is because I've been a very good listener, just in natural, just there's like my whole life I've been told that I'm a good listener, and I think that also helped because I remember during my first few like therapy sessions that I had, as a therapist is responding, I started picking up things that also inspired my curiosity to keep showing up. I'm just like, she said this, like that. And then it will open up a kind of worms, and I'll go deeper into it, start asking my mom, and she would just inform me. She's like, how do you forget all this? I was like, what the heck? How did this happen? And to me, that fascination and that curiosity came from the fact that I was listening.
Yeah.
But I do know a lot of people that I come in contact that go to therapy. They go to therapy for one issue, and they have no desire to talk about anything else. And they're like this. And usually they go in with like some expectation of what to get out of it. And to me, what worked for me is because I was listening. So how can we, put out a message that helps these individuals that may be finding themselves in that position where they're not listening at all? They're just going and like waiting to hear, like, all right, this is how you get your ex back. But like, that normally doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So how can we help them identify that within them, and also be going into it with the mindset of like, I'm listening and I'm here to learn?
Yeah. Ideally, that relationship that occurs when rapport is built with a therapist is that the way that they're getting the person to open up and share, and also how they're providing feedback. And hopefully there's just this great camaraderie that takes place. Ideally, within the context of that relationship, their guards would go down and they would be more open to listening. Also, another thought is that if it's a good therapist, they're going to challenge some of those barriers that they kind of pick up on, but in a gentle way that challenges them to go beyond what they initially thought they were trying to get out of therapy, and allow them to be like, well, what if you got more than that? Or what if that was your way in, but also there's something more that is here for you?
Again, thank you for that. And that actually cues perfectly to the next episode that we did a long time ago. And the title is The Secret to Making Therapy Works for You. I'm going to link it here. But since we're talking about going to therapy with the right expectation, now that they're in therapy, what are certain things that they should look out for as they're navigating with a therapist? That could be the journey of trying to find the right person, and then also what to expect, like realistically as you go to therapy.
Yeah. I mean, one thought that comes to mind is that, like, if you're not feeling the connection, or it feels like it's not the great fit, like, be willing to have that courageous conversation and say, like, again, I love what you're doing, but also, can you help me find someone who can help me focus on this? And being willing, instead of ghosting, like we've talked about before, or just kind of quitting and never coming back, it's, can I have this hard conversation and model, like, this isn't about you. This is about what's happening between us, or what I even want to or need to get out of this, and being willing to ask for referral. Doesn't mean you have to take the referral either, but also, like, just advocate for yourself.
Right.
And then with like other goals that you have, if you feel like you've hit everything, and this person, again, maybe you've gotten to the end of that relationship, and then it's about, maybe I move on to someone who focuses more on these things, but it's being willing to practice that self-reflection and say, like, this is what I've gained from this journey. Is there anything else here for me, or am I going to move on to someone who can take me further in a deeper direction?
Right. And then another thing that we talked about during this conversation, it's like, someone who's struggling with something, just across the spectrum, and they're going to therapy and they're stuck. How do they identify the fact that they're stuck as they go into therapy, and then being open to, feedback? But then also, if that relationship is not working, how do they try to find someone else or communicate that with the therapy instead of just like, I'm out? Yeah.
So it could be like, what are you doing in between sessions? Because not all of your progress, if you will, or healing, if you will, however you want to look at it, is not going to happen in the session. It's what happens in between sessions. And so if you're stuck, what are you taking from your session time, and how are you applying it to your everyday life? If you're not, that's why you're stuck. And so it's being willing to explore that. It could be the approach. It could be, again, maybe I've done more cognitive behavioral therapy. Maybe I've done more acceptance and commitment therapy. Maybe I've done the EMDR, whatever. But is there a different approach that I want to try? And so then whether that therapist offers it or not, it's being like, okay, I've done this for a while. Can I shift and see what this has to offer for me? The other part of, like, if you're stuck, it would go to, like, again, maybe you've reached the ceiling of that relationship with your therapist. And then, so then what does that look like? And so again, but that has to be seen with knowing where you're going, what you want to accomplish, and also what you're doing outside of that therapy session.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can relate to that as someone who switched therapists. But me, in like initially, again, I keep hearing things, but then my story is so complex. As someone who was raised in Africa, traveled all over to play soccer, went back to Africa, came to the US, and learned about I had a stutter. So it's like it was really hard for me to find a therapist that could relate to all of that. And that's also something that we talked about in the previous episode, but I want to go deeper here. It's like, how important is it to find a therapist that have a similar experience as you? Because I know that's a conversation in itself. Or, also how important is to find a therapist, not only have that similar experience, but also understand what you went through in order to help guide you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard because I don't think that someone has to have a similar experience to be able to move someone in a direction, because I think there's so much parallel and overlap in various different circumstances. Because like if you were going for a divorce, it doesn't mean that you can only hear from other people who are divorced, right? Or if you're going because you lost a parent and you're in grief, you don't have to hear from someone who's also experienced that. But I do know that culturally, sometimes like it can help to know that this person has understanding and knowledge of this particular culture and what they're going through, and that can add to the conversation. But also, again, if it is a good therapist, regardless of what they've experienced personally, like that doesn't have influence in the room. Like, again, even politically, like the therapist's responsibility is to open up the space to say like, what you come in with, I have room for, and I'm going to allow you to take the lead of where you want to go. And I'm just going to gently guide, tweak, nudge you along. And then again, sometimes there is a ceiling that's reached and then you shift. Right. But I don't think that experience only should limit, because I don't think everyone can have that.
No, yeah, I hear you. It's especially, I feel like when it comes to mental health therapy thing, it's very Western culture. So it's like now I can see it spreading out, obviously, but again, the different parts of the world, it's like it's still a new concept. Like meeting someone, even though we do it all the time, especially in Africa, there are elders you go to and talk to and give you advice. To me, that's therapy. Yeah. It's just here, it's a lot different. It's more structured again. There's, you go to an office, but with them, they're not HIPAA compliant like in Africa. They just give you advice and hopefully it works. And you can't sue them if it doesn't work. But usually they're really good advice. Another thing that I want to talk about that we touched on was like, something that would surprise a client when they go into therapy. What can you say about that? For example, all the experience you've had seeing clients come in. What's one thing that surprised them? Back to our example that we've been using so far, someone who went to therapy because of one reason, and the one that go to therapy they just wanted to know themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think multiple different examples. I think one is that if you go in thinking you're going to talk about this and then realize that 3 other things opened for you, I mean, it's like, oh, I didn't even realize that I had relational struggles until I came to therapy. And then it's like, oh man, why did I come to therapy? And now all of a sudden I have 10 more different issues. But again, it's like, what are you opening the door to? Different levels of understanding, different levels of just self-awareness and growth. And so it's like new things are going to come to fruition. But I just see that as continual movement on someone's growth journey. And I think that's just so imperative, because there are different times in your life where you don't have the ability to see something, and then someone says something to you and all of a sudden your eyes are opened. And then that's just a new way of like, oh, wow, okay, I have new things to focus on here. Right. And then another thing that I just love is that, and I've said this before too, is I incorporate humor so much that I think surprises people, because it's like, oh, if I'm going to therapy, I should be crying or I should only be sad or whatever. But it's like, I laugh a lot in therapy, and I just think like, it's good. Like we can have this really sad and moment or whatever, but also like humor is so relatable and laughter is so healing to the soul and body. And so it's like, oh, I go to therapy and sometimes we laugh, or sometimes we tell jokes.
No, absolutely. I feel like that, the humor aspect is so common in healthcare. Like doctors would always I have a great news and a bad news. And then the good news is that he's Dash. And the bad news is that he lost all the legs. Things like that. It happens in healthcare all the time, and people are used to that. But I think, again, the stigma around therapy, and it's so big that it even impacts the good side of it. It's like, all right, you can laugh, when you go to therapy. At least in my own case, when I went to therapy, I was very surprised to find out that I'm the problem, because I'm a good guy. Like my whole family, I was having straight A's. I was the one child, the promised child, basically, who had the greatest future, would probably be a president somewhere. and then came to find out that I just had all these issues, and I was like, oh wow, okay, let's go to work. So to me, that was very surprising. And then how my behavior was impacting people in my life, and how it was just corroding so many relationships. And I was like, whoa, okay, calm down, Madam Therapist. You're being mean now. It's like, let me digest this little by little. But then another thing that I want to talk about is the cost of going to therapy. I don't know a lot of people that are going to therapy sometimes. People are telling them, go to therapy, but you don't tell them, like, because healthcare, you can go to a hospital, they will take care of you.
Sure.
They'll just send you a bill. You decide whether to pay it or not. But the hospital gets paid either way. The government either pays them. But then when it comes to your bill, it can go to the credit report and eventually disappears. No one knows hospital bills. Like, who pays them eventually? Sometimes, insurance, if you have good insurance, they pay for it. But a lot of people go to therapy. They've been told you need to go to therapy, but then they don't have the resources to go to therapy. What does that look like for you guys as a therapist when you take in someone and in the middle of things are going good, boom, they can't afford it anymore?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think, if you do have good insurance, that could be an option for you to where you utilize insurance for therapy. Mm-hmm. Sometimes various employers will provide so many sessions. And so then it's using that employee assistance program for so many sessions. And then it's also where can you go to a local university that's teaching their students? And so then they sometimes will offer free or reduced therapy to people in the community. There are resources available that provide therapy to no or little cost when you can't afford it. Mm-hmm. A lot of times churches, if you attend, they will help you go, and so then provide financial resources for that. Mm-hmm. So there's options to explore. And then also sometimes it may just be about reprioritizing your finances. And so if I'm going to skip the drive-through for my local coffee place for a couple of weeks so that I can have money to go to therapy, then it's like, are you willing to sacrifice some things in order to put it here?
So like, as a therapist, how does insurance look like for you guys? Because I know insurance doesn't have the best reputation at all. And I know you guys are, the work that you do, the amount of emotion, the capacity that you guys need in order to sit there and be present with someone. And I'm asking you this because I want people to be realistic when they go into therapy. Simply because you can afford it, it doesn't mean that the therapist has to do this for free. The amount of requirement needed to become a therapist, it's just astronomical. That's why I'm not a therapist, because I'm like, I don't want to go to school for 6 years. Okay, I'm gonna do a podcast instead. And I know all of those costs, the loans. I talked to some therapists that have like 6 figures in loans, like student loan debt that they have to pay, which is similar to like the medical field. Yeah. The medical field never get questions. Maybe that's because insurance loves them. But when it comes to therapy, and I know that's a cost that you guys are paying as a therapist. Yeah. Doing all the sessions, sending that bill to the insurance, and then they don't pay it. Like, what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah. So if you have private insurance that covers, or if you're in an EAP, that means generally if you find a therapist who is in network with that insurance company, you are likely going to just have a copay. Or sometimes if you have a really great insurance plan, you might not have a copay and they might cover the full fee of what it would cost. And then other times, if you have a high deductible, you're going to end up paying out of pocket for the service. And so there is this mentality in if I pay for health insurance, this should be lumped under, and I should have mental health coverage. It doesn't always work that way, but for some people it does.
So like, one thing you said was like, sometimes insurance may not pay for it and you may cut off just a session with with that patient at that time. So what happens when insurance doesn't pay? Do you guys like lose the money?
Well, it kind of goes to like how long they've been seeing and what their financial situation is. And so I know I've had clients before where insurance didn't pay out and they were in a really tough spot. And so I just saw them pro bono. And like, again, I'm not everyone. And so some people may not have done that. But for me, client care trumped what I financially should be compensated or whatever. But you can't do that for everybody because then I'm working for free and I'm like, I'm trying to run a business. But, and so, sometimes it could be that the relationship has to end because insurance is their only path and they can't afford anything else. And so then if insurance not paying out, then they would have to go somewhere where like a lot of the times you have to go to a qualified mental health facility, and sometimes they have really long waiting lists and their therapists are seeing a massive number of clients. And so it's going to be a tougher experience. But so it could be in the client relationship, the therapist goes without, or there's back pay that they owe. And so it just kind of depends on the situation of how that's moving forward.
I know. It's like always rough because it's like mental health has been designed to be this emotional space where you come in, you are being received no matter what. But like it's like the other person has to survive. In this case, the therapist. Yeah,
and think about how much money insurance companies make per year.
Oh yeah, a lot. They make a lot of money.
And then think about how much they're trying to squeeze these frontline providers, and it's just really unfortunate.
I know, very sad. I mean, even me as an individual, I used to pay like close to $500 a month. Now that I have a family, that's like $700. I'm like, why did I have a family? I'm just but then the cost of insurance, and you have to be insured. If it's just me, like I can go live life, not give a crap about insurance. I got insurance one because I needed to go to therapy, but then I'm just like, all right, I don't need this anymore. I'm done. But now I'm like, I have family, 2 kids. It keeps going up.
Yeah.
And I remember, our agents just sent us a price. I was like, what the heck? So like this is gonna get more expensive, but anyway, So why is it? I guess I'm trying to understand like what are the reasons that leads to insurance refusing to pay? Is it paperwork most of the time, or is it more so like they just like, all right, we're not gonna pay?
That's a mystery to me. Like we have where we're in network with a few different insurance providers, and then we'll have where this client has this insurance company, and we've had situations where we do the claims and paperwork all the same. These pay out just fine, and these ones do not. And this is also part of the frustration is we can spend forever on the phone trying to understand where the disconnect is. And then they're like, oh, well, you just need to fix this. So then you claim to fix whatever they're asking you to fix, and then you resubmit, and then there's some other new issue. Or now, because it took so long for them to figure out the problem, if there isn't even a problem, and you've resubmitted, and now it's too long past the original date and they refuse to pay out anyway.
Wow, that's petty.
It is ridiculous.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah.
That they have to do that. So, and then you also mentioned in-network. Is it the people, for example, let's say I am insured with, like SpiraCare, and you as a therapist, you work with SpiraCare, you're within their network, then I can come to you and just get therapy, and my insurance will take care of it at least. I think I'm assuming. So that's what in-network means. And out-of-network are individuals that are, or you are outside of that network, and then someone who's not insured, you are not within their insurance, and they want to work with you. And that's outside of network.
Yep. And so then sometimes you can submit a claim as the client called a Superbill, and then the insurance.
So many cool names that they put in there. Superbill.
Yeah.
Super, not bill, but Superbill.
So then the insurance would just reimburse potentially the client directly versus the provider.
So they want to keep the client to keep insured?
Well, so it'd be like if you're going to an out-of-network provider, the insurance isn't going to reimburse the provider because they're not within their network. And so then the client may submit, and then they would basically reimburse the client, but sometimes they don't either.
Right. It's this giant subscription. It's like it's massive subscription that sometimes feels like, all right, well, we're not going to pay the actual people doing the work.
Yeah.
Like, so sometimes I wonder what's the point of insurance? Like when you can just go directly to the person instead of paying the insurance $500 a month. How about you just pay the provider a annual, like a monthly fee, and stay within their subscription instead?
Yeah. Some people are doing that.
Some people are doing that.
Yeah. There's
Okay.
a subscription method I've heard of. Yeah.
Oh, really? Well, I mean, I would recommend that than insurance, because to me, if I find a therapist that would take $150 to cover my family for 12 months, I would rather do that than insurance.
Yeah.
Again, I pay insurance, but it's like I never use it. Sometimes, like, because I feel like at the point of my life, and they tell me it's cheaper right now because of my health. I don't have any complications. I was like, this is cheaper. Like, imagine someone who is like, has all this complication. How much is their insurance premium every month?
Yeah.
Like, I can't even imagine. And those people can go to work most of the time. And I know that sometimes that's when the government jumps in and try to, stifle and make sure that they can afford insurance. But to me, I'm like, this is all backwards. Like, you have insurance. It's designed to help you when you can't help yourself. But I notice in this country, it's usually the other way around. You have insurance, they're not going to help you until they know you are actually sick. And actually, I had a story of someone who called, I think they called it like a debt list. Insurance will give you a debt list. And you go and call, and business therapists that are already out of business or moved to a different location, they're not even licensed in that area. How often does that happen? Just in your experience as a therapist?
I've never even heard of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's usually a client will contact insurance and ask them for a list of the therapists in their network.
Oh, yeah.
She called it dead network.
Okay.
That's because you look into it. She said one time she called, and then it was a jewelry store.
Oh my!
And that was on their list. Again,
wow.
They don't update it.
Oh wow!
They're like, keep paying. We have these amazing providers, and then it's like actual names of people. But you contact the business already have been long gone, moved, or they know. So one of them actually, the provider died a long time ago.
Oh gosh!
But it was still active within the insurance. List. And so like things like that are happening. It's like, what is the point of insurance at this point?
Yeah.
Which is wild that you guys are dealing with that in the back end. But again, the reason why I'm talking about it is because a lot of patients are going into it and they don't know any of this. And sometimes I see people are attacking the therapist. And sometimes like, why do I even have to pay for therapy? I see this online a lot. But like, thank you for kind of like sharing the behind the curtains as like what's actually happening when it comes to insurance and why a lot of people don't take insurance. So is there anything that you want to add from the insurance perspective that we don't know as patients that are going into mental health care?
Yeah, and I think I said this in the last episode too, but just kind of be willing to hear kind of both sides of the conversation. And if you're hearing and you're calling and people aren't in network, there's probably reasons why.
Right. Yeah. No one wants to work for hundreds of hours and then you find out that the insurance is not going to pay that. So imagine if that was happening in your workplace. You go to work and your boss is like, I'm not going to pay you.
Yep.
Because you did not submit the paperwork right. I feel like that's what's happening, but that's not.
But actually, it's not that it wasn't submitted right. It's like all of a sudden.
It was too long.
Yeah. Or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it happens in the workplace, but they still pay you. It takes a little bit longer. They're like, you missed the pay date. You didn't submit your hours in time. But then eventually they will pay you. But insurance, they're like, sorry, man, it's out of my hand. Yeah. So just to conclude this conversation, just like how we touched on, the beginning of this was just someone, who's going to therapy with the one issue that they want to deal with, and that's it. To now talking about their in therapy and what's the most realistic thing to expect out of it, and also how do you go about when it comes to affording therapy itself. What would you say to tie all of this experience as people that are watching this, want to go to therapy, but they have all these questions? Like, what's one thing that you want to tell them?
Yeah, I would just look at your situation and know that everyone is different. And so whether it makes sense for you to use insurance and you found a great provider that's in network and they pay out, wonderful, use that. If you found that you don't have great insurance or you have a provider that you like and they're not in network, just imagine like giving up going out to eat once a week, or just reprioritizing your finances and saying, if you enjoy going shopping and you do some retail therapy, can you exchange that to do some mental health therapy? And just be willing to say, like, if I have these goals and I want to move forward with them, and this is the avenue that I want to do it, I'll make it work. I'll figure it out.
Right. Well, in my own situation, luckily I had the luxury to afford it. But then while I was in it, I was like, this is too expensive. Why am I doing this? But then I see the value. I stated it anyway. And the more I learned about insurance, I was like, I wish I had insurance. But then after years later, I'm like, oh, insurance. Wow, this is insane. Because my therapist actually sat me down and told me, because I was trying to switch to an insurance that she was not with. And she was like, well, I can't work with this insurance. I prefer this. And I was like, why? And she kind of gave me an overview of like why she doesn't take insurance and how sometimes insurance is not even for therapists. That's her belief.
Yeah.
And a lot of therapists believe that. And now today you see all these big startups, mental health companies coming in that are getting all these, initially they'll hire all these therapists and then they grow to Series A, raise $100 million and they fire all the therapists. And now like, we can hire you as a contractor now. Which is also very scary. It's been happening. I see it on LinkedIn all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think conversations like this can help patients know who to go with. Like simply because there's a massive startup saying, we have the fastest access to therapy. Like at the end of the day, therapists in the end that have to provide those services.
Yeah.
Not the actual company. They're just creating a platform and for you to plug into easily. Cool software, nice, streamlined, but at the end of the day, you have to talk to a therapist. Mm-hmm. And I think the more we talk about this, the more the patients can go directly to the therapist and avoid all this middle crap. And I know it works for the EAP with the workplace. Sometimes it's more reliable, but I'm sure that also has its own issues as well.
It does.
They don't pay you guys
not very
the
well.
right hours. It just maybe they ask for X amount of hours for 100 employees, which still... Now you have to be in their system and work around the clock just to meet that. Do you guys offer EAPs right now? Or
we have a few EAPs that we're also considered a network with, but reimbursement rates aren't great, and those number of sessions are very limited. And so it's
limited
just
as in like.
So they might provide like 5 sessions, and then
after a whole year.
It could be for the year, or it could be per issue. So it's like if you're like, I'm going to go 5 sessions for anxiety, and then I'm going to reapply for 5 sessions for depression or something like that. And so sometimes there are loopholes, but a lot of the times it's we cap you at this number of sessions. And so then if you're in the middle of something, you either have to figure out how to pay private pay, or you stop.
Wow. So they give you the teaser, and then if it's too much, like, no. We give you 5 hours a year, so stick to that.
Yeah.
So if you go over, then it's up to the employee to actually pay.
Yeah.
Do they get the same price as the EAP, or do they have to go private?
It's private. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Private.
Wow. It's so sophisticated. Somehow we figure it out in healthcare, but that's also very broken today. So maybe the next generation, or my generation, I think we're all too traumatized to deal with anything. So the next generation is doing a good job. They're already running for office at a very young age. So, but again, thank you so much for, just breaking this down with me and just giving different perspectives. I know this is your last episode. Is there anything that you want to say to the viewers, to the listeners? I have a few people that are a big fan of you. Keep telling them, just go and talk to her. Okay, go talk to her.
I thank you and all the conversations we've had. It's been such a ride, and thank you for listening, and thank you for this opportunity. Likewise. And so it's just been wonderful. Yeah, and just come find us if you want to talk with us.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I will. Continue pushing just tenfold in general. Because I'm a big believer of what you guys do. I haven't met the rest of your team, but just what I see online, it's been very genuine, and I think you guys are meeting the patients where they are. Every now and then, I'll see some foolish comments on your page of people that are just in the past that are still like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
But then I love that you guys are trying to break out of that, that narrow belief of what therapy is.
Yeah.
So again, thank you so much. It's been fun. So this will be the last episode for Crystal, if I haven't said it already. For the, they know who they are. This will be the last episode, but there'll be a lot of episodes for you to go back to, which I'm going to link in this conversation. But this will be a guide for everyone that's thinking about going to therapy, that has an idea of like, maybe I should go talk to someone. Listen to this conversation. It will give you a step-by-step guide all the way to insurance, what to expect realistically as you go into therapy. Again, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.